Okay, hi everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Cass Hall, and I'll be moderating this session along with fellow Northwest eLearn board member Wei Wei Zhang. Wei Wei wants to get a little wave. Thank you. This session is titled From Surviving to Thriving, Ensuring that Students and Instructors Continue to Develop the Digital Literacy Skills Gained During the Pandemic. So I'm excited to hear about this. And we have Tim VanSlyke, Liatris Myers, Mary Hughes, and Melody Abarca. And they are from Chemeketa Community College. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. But first, just a couple things that we want to let you know. If you have any questions, please post them in the Zoom chat, and they will go ahead and follow up on questions that appear there. And the session is being recorded, and it'll be available on our conference website after the fact. So we will share all of those links with you. The speaker slides will also be available, and we'll put that in the chat too. And we want to say thank you to our sponsor, HonorLock, for helping us make this conference possible. HonorLock is all about humanizing online proctoring. If you want to chat with them, you can head over to their channel in our conference Slack, and we'll put that link in the chat as well. So go ahead and take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cass, for that nice introduction. And you did a really good job of saying Chemeketa. So thank you. It's a hard word to say. When you just read it, you don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Chemeketa Community College in Salem. And yeah, I'm Mary. And we have the longest name for our presentation, but we really wanted to capture what we did, and we survived, we thrived, and we gained a lot of digital literacy skills ourselves, the instructors, and our students certainly did as well. And we want our students felt accomplished and proud, and we want to keep that up in our studies now that we're back in the classroom. So yeah, I'm here with Tim and Leah and Melody, and we can move to the next slide, Tim. Yeah, we're here, the four of us, we're the lucky ones that get to present, but we did have a bigger team with us, mostly ESOL instructors. We did meet a lot with the Center for Academic Innovation at Chemeketa Community College, and they helped us for all of our tech needs about Canvas or technology. We also, when we're on this project, we met with the marketing team, and I can show you the next slide. What I mean is on our Canvas template, which we'll talk about, our marketing team took these wonderful pictures and more of our students that we used on our Canvas template, our Canvas shells. And we want our students to open up their Canvas shell and look at people who look like them. They see themselves, they see their friends. So we have a banner. That is our fall banner. We also have spring banner and a winter banner. And then we have these functional buttons that students click on to get to the learning modules or the course overview, like that. And let's see, let's talk about what we did. So we all remember way back in spring of 2020, the panic, the chaos, the challenges, the difficulties. So for us, and everyone, we rushed online. We were using Blackboard at the time for our classes. The college was headed to switch to Canvas. We weren't ready yet, so we were still using Blackboard. And we had, going online, we had to learn what is Zoom. We had to make sure our students had devices. Do they have good internet at home? Do they need like a hotspot? And actually we started spring term a week late, I believe, so we could make sure that students had all the equipment. So we survived spring term. It was hard, like you all probably experienced as well. We learned about Zoom fatigue. We had a lot of lessons learned just for ourselves about teaching online. And we got really good feedback from our students as well. So things like our students would say, oh, students were taking 3 or 4, maybe even 5 classes. And so they would have different Blackboard shells to look at. So once, students said, oh, one teacher puts the homework over here, another teacher puts the homework over there. One teacher organizes by weeks, another teacher organizes by content or the units from the book. So it was hard for students to navigate their different classes, and especially for students who were new to using just solely technology for their classes. So that feedback led us to create a work group. How are we going to make this better for when we start using Canvas in the fall? So we wanted a consistent look and feel for the students so they can, navigate better and be more successful in their classes in learning the content. So in the summer, we worked a lot to develop this template for our Canvas shells. And we also, wanted to have an area on Canvas where we could share resources, because we were creating so many resources during that time. Worksheets for students, how to share a screen in Zoom, step-by-step guides and handouts, so that we could use for other classes, and video. So we wanted to create this ESOL hub on Canvas. So we did that in the summer, and then in the fall, we moved to Canvas. The whole college started using Canvas. We had formal kind of faculty trainings with our department, the ESOL department, and we also had trainings from the Center for Academic Innovation. We supported each other a lot. We just met casually for sharing best practices. We showed instructors how to get the template, how to embed it into your shell, how to use it. We had student orientations, required tech workshops, and I believe we also started a week late, so we could make sure the students took those trainings, they had their equipment. And that's how we worked all of the pandemic. In spring 2021, we started coming back. We started with the lower level classes back in the classroom, and we're mostly back in the classroom now. We did elect to have some remote classes for higher levels in the evening. So, we're back in the classroom. We want to make sure our students, they learned all this technology, these technology skills. So we want to make sure we keep up. So we asked each other in program meetings, how are we going to ensure that our students are, keeping up and practicing their skills? We don't want them to lose this. In addition, we had students that returned, that waited out the Zoom period, and now they're back in the classroom, and we need to make sure that they're caught up with the other students as well. So in a nutshell, that's our history, and Leah is going to continue on now.
Yeah, to focus in on some more of the specifics, as Mary mentioned, and probably many of you experienced, the spring of 2020 was pretty crazy, with suddenly switching to Zoom classes. And for us in particular, we had a student population that had very high rates of low digital literacy skills. So it was particularly challenging for us. And we, as Mary mentioned, we were using the Blackboard platform, which we had in use for some time, but we didn't actually use it all that much in our classes. And suddenly we had to use it hugely more and put all the homework there, and Zoom links, or some people were emailing the Zoom links, and just nobody knew how to do that, right? Because we had never had this kind of situation before. So nobody knew how to do this. And every teacher was trying to figure it out and taking a different approach. And hence, as Mary mentioned, students being pretty confused between one Blackboard shell and another. And that was some of the feedback that we got at the end of the term. Our dean, at the end of the term, our dean will go around to each class and talk to the students and get their feedback about the teacher and the class and the program, the things they like and the things they want changed. And one big piece of feedback he got at the end of the spring of 2020 was how it was confusing going between different Blackboard shells courses that were set up completely differently. And the college had been planning for a long time, for many terms, preparing for moving the whole college from Blackboard to Canvas. And that had originally been planned for the summer of 2020, but it did get pushed back to the fall of 2020 because of the COVID situation. And just, all the other things they had to deal with and getting delayed on finishing setting up for the transition to Canvas. And so since we were changing platforms, we decided that the college, our tech people at the college had set up a college template that instructors could use. And we decided to make a work group to take that college template and customize it for our ESOL classes. So we put in program documents and policies, and we organized it and put buttons on the front, made it easy to access Zoom. We also put in links to ESOL resources. And in addition to that template for all of our instructors to use, so our classes all had the same kind of layout and the same kind of look and feel. We also, in a separate Canvas shell, we created a repository of ESOL resources for instructors to import, which were organized by topic or class and level. So the instructors, if they're teaching a certain course, they can just go into that and pull up the module of resources for that particular course and have some materials and support and stuff there for them. In addition to that, of course, we had to develop training and support for our faculty and students to begin using the template. We had before the term, when we were doing our back to school stuff, we did a training on that. And then those of us who were involved in making the template, we got called on a fair bit by other instructors to help them out with it as they were learning to use it. And we did trainings, especially for new students, on how to use it. And we developed a lot of resources and picture guides around using it and stuff like that. I think I'm ready for the next slide. And so to show you a little bit more about how the template works, we published the template into the Canvas comments. And so if you go and look at the comments and filter in it, we have our own, in the Chemeketa Canvas Commons, we have our own ESOL designation. So ESOL instructors can go click on the ESOL designation and see all of the ESOL materials and not be overwhelmed with or trying to find ESOL materials among all the other materials for the college. And so the template is there in the comments, as you can see in the image, for instructors to import. And this is a picture of what it looks like in a live course. As you can see, we have the banner up at the top, which has pictures of our own students. So these were pictures that were taken for publicity purposes prior to the pandemic. And as Melody said, we wanted to customize it with with our own students so they could see themselves and see their friends. And we have different banners for the different terms. So you can see the top one is the banner that was made for winter, and the The bottom one was for spring, and I think the one on the prior slide was that's the fall banner. And you can also see that it's set up with the CRN, the term, and the instructor for the instructor to fill out. This one has not been customized by the instructor yet. And you can see the Zoom buttons, or the buttons, including the Zoom one. We made sure to have a big Zoom button be the very first button so that students could find it easily and get into the class, because that's like the most critical thing. If you can get them into the Zoom class, you can help them. But if they're floating somewhere out in space, you can't really help them very well. And you can also see down the left side, the template comes in with certain parts hidden and certain parts visible, so that just thinning it down so that students don't have a lot of things to be confused by or overwhelmed by a lot of different things they could click on and where things, try and find where things are. Okay, I think that's that. And I turn it over now to Melody, right?
Perfect. Of course, besides having a consistent feel and look for the students and the instructors, ongoing tech support was a huge deal. There, just like Leah mentioned, if a student is floating out there in space, there's no way we can help them. So super important. We created, in addition to the team that was working on creating this same look and feel, we also created a tech team. And the tech team did all kinds of things. We had ongoing troubleshooting sessions pretty much every week. And it was like a drop-in. Do you have a question? And this was for instructors. Do you have a question? Do you not understand how something works? We're here to help you. Instructors would share tips of things that they've been doing in the classroom that have been working with their students. And those were very successful. And then we had the Tech Angels, which were part of that tech team. It was a group of people, most of us were instructors, who worked on a rotating basis to support instructors in the moment, in the classroom with the students. And so there were usually 2 or 3 instructors or tech team members from the Tech Angels that were on call for every class. So if an instructor was in the middle of teaching a class and they noticed that 10 students haven't shown up, they could easily send a text message to someone who was on call, and that person would access the attendance list, look who wasn't there, could zoom into the class. We had a link with all the Zoom links for all the instructors, so it was easy for us. We could jump right in, zoom into their class, say, what's the problem? How can I help you? If it was getting students into Zoom, we had all of the students' information. We could quickly call the students, WhatsApp the students, find out how come they couldn't get into class, help them get into class. If the issue was something in the class, like the students couldn't hear, or the students, the instructor couldn't hear the student because they didn't know how to take off the mute, then we could be put into a breakout room. The instructor might put us into a breakout room. We would work one-on-one with the student, or sometimes we would call the student and be on WhatsApp with the student and have the student be showing us video call, showing us what their screen looks like and telling them what to do. We had Tech Angels who spoke Spanish, who spoke Russian, English. So we were trying to help the students as much as possible in the language that worked for them. That was very successful, not only for the instructor who was feeling extremely stressed at the moment, just to be able to put those students in a breakout room or be assured that someone was going to help that student call the student so that they could get on and do their teaching instead of having to worry about all of the tech troubles. It was also reassuring to the students. They could, once they knew that there was a tech angel calling them, they felt better, they got the help. Next time, what happened a lot of times is the student would call the tech angel that had called them last time and said, I'm having the same trouble. Can you help me? Instead of having to have the instructor call. So that was really super, very successful. And then we had trainings for faculty, how to use Zoom, how to use Canvas. We had one-on-one support from the tech angels with instructors, with students. Mary mentioned the faculty peer support. There was a lot of like informal and formal peer support. The tech angels we made a whole bunch of step-by-step guides, videos that were for the students as well as for the instructors. And for students, we made them come to a workshop before they started classes. So Leah mentioned how we started classes a week late, fall term and winter term. And that gave us time to get all the new students in to take a tech workshop. So they came to campus. This was required. They came to campus. They attended a tech workshop, and it was about 3 hours. We did a lot of stuff. And they got a tech manual that we made that had all kinds of images for them to follow step-by-step of how to get into Zoom, how to submit an assignment on Canvas, how to take a picture, how to hold the mouse, what are the names of different computer parts. And so they had to go through that workshop before they could start classes. And we had a pass-fail for them. So if they passed, then they were ready to start classes the following week. If they did not pass, then they had to come back another day that week and take the workshop again. And of course, that didn't alleviate all the problems. It did help students feel more successful and help them, for the most part, get into classes and to be able to do some things. But there was still a huge need for the tech angels to help in the moment. Students still needed a lot of support, but having that tech workshop ahead of time helped a lot. We made sure that they all had the Canvas student app downloaded onto their phone ahead of time. So just little things like that helped, even though we still needed the tech angels quite a bit. We made sure that all the instructors were building a little bit of technology into their lessons. I mean, it was, of course, required since it was all classes are online, but just teaching little things in each of the classes helped all the students. And the feedback from the students was amazing. They felt so successful and like they had learned so much from technology. And we're talking low-level students who speak almost no English. They felt like they had learned so much because of the technology. We gave them laptops, hotspots, everything they needed. And so when they came to campus to do their tech workshop, then we gave them all of those things so that they had them. Then if students had a trouble with their laptop, it wasn't working, somehow it wasn't logging into Zoom, it died, whatever, they could bring it back to campus and exchange it for a new one. And we made it pretty easy by having them come just to our department, to our language lab, instead of having to go across campus and search for the library where they checked them out. The library came to us. So that was really, really helpful for the students who didn't know how to find things on campus. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it on our ongoing tech support.
Sorry, I had to unmute. So I'll take the next part, and I'm going to give a quick guided tour of the Canvas. You've already seen a little bit of it, but we're going to look at some more of the nuts and bolts. And I also want to shout out to Sage Freeman, who's here with us. He designed the Chemeketa College template that we based our template on. And he's a great resource if anyone has questions about some of the technical aspects of this. So I'm going to switch screens here for a minute. And this is my Canvas dashboard. So I have all my live classes for this term. And then here's our Canvas template. And so you can see it's got the banners that Leah and Mary mentioned. And we, we wanted a kind of like a consistent look and feel. So it's set up, all of our classes now are set up by week. As Mary was mentioning, prior to the template, it was kind of all over the place. And one of the best features that students don't see are a lot of resources that are built into the template. So Sage created a lot of these things like buttons and banners that we can easily customize. So we just have to pull it up, and there's instructions on how to set all that up. We have information about how to get started, links to our hub, which I'll show you in just a minute, and so on. So we feel, and this is one of the things that when we're talking about, okay, how do we continue building on those tech skills that our students gain, is that we've decided that moving forward, even though we're back to face-to-face, that all classes will continue having this template, and we'll put most of or all of the homework online. It varies by instructor, but every instructor is putting at least some of their assignments online, even though they're back in the face-to-face classroom. And so, for example, in my class, I demonstrate this in class when we're face-to-face, and I say, okay, here's our homework for today, and it's in Canvas. And so the students are continuing to use the gradebook, and it's still set up, by weeks, so that if they miss something, if they were sick or out, they can go back to a previous week and see what we did. So we found it to be a really useful tool, and we're really happy to be continuing to use it. So I'm going to jump over to the hub, because that's also this repository that we created with resources has been a huge tool in our toolbox in terms of getting up and going online. So during the pandemic, it was hugely useful, but it continues to be a great resource. If a new instructor comes in and hasn't taught a certain level or class before, they can come here. Here you see one of our low-level items in the hub. It has information about textbook, for example, what textbook is being used, and if there are online resources for that book, they can easily access those. We have things like our, we do a writing assessment every term. And so there's an assignment that we publish for that, and it's very easy for our instructors to go and copy this into their classes. And so it's a great way for us to share resources throughout the department. And you can see here we have, in addition to resources for each class, people will share, like here we have something that might work in multiple levels. And so modules that can be imported into different classes. We have a section on technology. And yeah. You guys, is there anything I left out? I think that covers. Okay. Let me switch back.
Tim, do you want to show the table of contents in the?
Yeah, okay. That I'll have to switch.
Oh, I think you could link, there's a link in the hub.
Oh, okay.
I saw a link in the hub, yeah.
Which, help me
And
out.
you just click on A2 reading, writing again.
Okay.
I think we put it in all the class modules.
I think I just saw like there was
Course
a
guideline spreadsheet
yeah, course guidelines
at the
spreadsheet.
bottom.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So we have a spreadsheet that we share with instructors that has, so these are really useful in terms of, here's our course outcomes. And that was something I was wanting to mention too, that we've gone and we've been revising a lot of our course outcomes. And one of our efforts in terms of getting technology more integrated into our classes is we've been adding more technology outcomes to all of our classes. So for each of these outcomes, there are different items, and then there's links to specific resources that can be used for that. Is that the table of contents you wanted, Mary?
Mary, you're on mute.
On our slides, there's a link to the ESL. If you look back on our slides.
But Tim, I would just mention right there that on there at the bottom, maybe participants want to notice that we have a tab for every single class.
Yeah.
So there's all of that information for every single level and class. They can click on there and get the information they need. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, we've had, Google Drive folders, like so many in the past. And, we've been sharing things so many different ways. So, one of our efforts to just kind of streamline the process and organize things is just to make, as much as possible, everything available in a central location. Because, I can't remember, I think Leah was mentioning, we created so many materials. Everybody was building the plane as it flew. And so it's been great to be able to capture all that and not lose all the materials that we were creating. It was a very productive time for us because, we suddenly had to have everything online. And so I can access, I think, is this the table of contents?
Yeah, you can get it from the slideshow, or you can,
yeah. And this is another spreadsheet that we use that has all, links to all of our course guidelines. We can pull up course guidelines, things like, the schedule for the term, textbook list, previous terms syllabi, things like that. And this is something I access, especially at the beginning of a term, a lot. But usually throughout the term, I'm coming back here. Even things like just knowing who to contact in our program, because we have a fairly large program, and so knowing who do I contact for this, or who do I reach out to for that has been very useful. All right. So let me switch back to. So one of the things, this is I got from Sage about a year ago, that we wanted to share with everyone here was one of the areas that we feel like we were successful is just in the amount of meetings we had with each other and with students. So this chart kind of shows across the college, it's a Zoom usage report. So who's using Zoom the most? And you can see that academic development, which is our department, includes ESL, GED, ABE, and reading study skills and developmental writing. We were the top program. So we were meeting with our students the same amount of time that we did when we were face-to-face. So we didn't cut short any of our classes. All of our classes went the full length, and students stayed in class the whole time. If it was a 3-hour class or whatever, they stuck with it. And we found that to be, along with all the tech support that we did and the ongoing trainings and everything all together, it really contributed to our retention. And so while the rest of the college was experiencing major declines in enrollment, we had rising FTE. And this is a really complicated spreadsheet I got from my director, but it is, if you see the lines going up there, and if you look at the far right column, we were accounting for a big portion of the FTE that the college was producing because our numbers actually grew during the pandemic, and they've continued to hold steady. Well, the college as a whole has experienced some decline. So we felt like that was our efforts in getting everybody, on Zoom and training them and supporting them really contributed to that. It wasn't the only thing, but it definitely had a role to play in keeping our numbers high. So this is Melody, right?
Yes, and this is where I'm going to address your question in the chat. So there was a question in the chat about how are we going to continue this moving forward and maintaining our site and what we do, and who is the lead person on that. And for Canvas, like the hub, adding more resources to the hub and keeping our template looking the same across, that is Tim. He is our go-to person on that. And so to maintain that, sometimes at our department meetings, we might say, hey, the template needs an update on this or this, and Tim will fix it and maintain that for us. But as a whole, we have been doing continual trainings, tech trainings for the entire district. So if instructors are new, we might during in-service do Canvas training, so the instructors are up to date on our template and our ESOL hub, the resources we have available. So that was to answer the question in the chat. So moving forward, we most of our classes are face-to-face, but we do have some remote classes. What we found is that at the upper levels of our ESOL classes, there are many smaller classes. And so to meet the needs of those upper level students, we decided to have an online remote class across the district. And so that Tim has been teaching that this term, and Leah as well. And that's been going good. We're excited, hoping to continue that forward so that those students, especially at the outreach centers, can get the upper level support they need. The outreach centers, we're letting those students who are taking those online courses come to campus and take the remote class on campus. So if they need any kind of technology support, someone is there and able to help them. And also they have support of their peers who are taking the online course, the remote course as well. All the instructors, we've already talked about this, everyone is using Canvas with the template. We're continuing to do that. We've had students that came with us through the pandemic, and we have new students that have not been through the pandemic with us, but we are using Canvas and that template with all of our resources. So it's the same look and feel across the district. So if a student goes from my class out at an outreach to the Salem campus with another instructor, they have the same look and feel in those classes. We have expanded our technologies, and most students are no longer on Zoom. We are still offering technology classes every course, every term, and all the instructors are weaving technology into their classes, teaching students how to use Google Docs and Google Drive and Canvas and submitting assignments and Kami, and so the students are still getting a lot of technology, the same as when we were online. We have a language lab where students can go and practice using resources online to learn English and practice their technology. I talked about the in-service. We continue to offer support to instructors who need support using Canvas, as well as just technology in general. And we know that students, especially the students who didn't come through the pandemic with us, they still are lacking technology, some of them, not all of them. And so just helping students learn that technology is really important, and they feel so good about learning technology. It's helping them be ready for a job. And I think that's it on that slide. So we just wanted to end with a few minutes so that if anyone online has a question, anything you would like to ask us about, we would be happy to answer.